And they came out and they looked. And as they looked, the 6 beasts of the forest, the water sort of cleared and there was a mist. And suddenly they could see a picture. And they could see something that was happening a long way away, for this was a desert, but they didn't know what it was. But in the distance, there were 3 camels. And they called it a camel train. But there wasn't just 3 camels. There was a man on a horse, and there were some people walking alongside, and there was a couple of dogs. And it was something they were obviously used to. But on the 3 camels, there were 3 men. And suddenly, the 6 beasts, they just looked. And as they looked, all the other beasts from the forest came out. And they all came out almost all at once. For there was the badger and the squirrel. There was the polecat, the stoat and the weasel. The hedgehog came. Then suddenly, all the little mice came, for there was the water mouse and the water voles. And all of everything that lived and had 4 legs or 2 legs, there was frogs and toads that came out of the water and turned and looked back down in again. And all the beasts of the forest, they were all there. And suddenly again, a great big eagle came down, and he landed on the same tree as the owl. And he was the king of all the birds, and the queen of all the birds came down. But that's the swan. And the swan came down and she sat just at the bottom of that tree. And then suddenly, every bird in the whole forest, the whole Celtic forest, all came and sat around the trees. And as they were all sort of looking down, and suddenly all the insects came out. For a bee landed on the fox's nose. And suddenly there were butterflies there. Even though it was night time, it didn't matter. Everything that was living and breathing in the whole of the forest came that night and sat round the pool. And finally, all together and all at once, the farm animals all came. We call them the big beasts and the little beasts sometimes here. The big beasts, they're the cows and the sheep, the ponies and the horses and all those. And the little beasts is what we call the poultry, for there's the turkeys and there's the hens and the chickens and the geese and all of that kind of stuff. So finally, all looking round the pond all at once was everything that lived and breathed in those days, all represented at once. And they looked at the picture, and that camel train, it went to a city. And there were powerful people sat on those camels because they went to see the king, but the king was shaking his head and putting his hands up like this and going like this and getting agitated. And the wise men, they seemed to understand the message, and they turned and they left. And all the animals, they watched him as he went across another desert. And he went into a little town, and the whole place was rammed because there was some kind of census that was going on. Every place was full. And they went from one place to another asking the same question. And finally, they ended up at a little stable, round the back, up a little alley, the poorest of poor places. And as they went in, they found a mother and a little baby, and the most relieved father you've ever seen in your life. And just as they looked into that stable, the pony said, "Look, look, it's me. I can see me." And Cow went, "I'm there as well." And the little rat round the corner went, "We're there as well. Look, round the corner, in the corner. We're there as well." And the little sheep said, "We're there." And they all laughed. And they said, "Where are you?" And they said, "Watch." And some shepherds came. And some shepherds came and they had sheep. And they had a little lamb and they went into the stable and they knelt by the little baby. And then the 3 wise men from those camels walked into the stable. And they gave some frankincense. And they gave some myrrh. And they gave some gold. And they all knelt together and wished the baby good luck. And all the animals, they all watched this at once. And when all this was being done, over on the east, there was the faintest little bits of light. And everybody knew that the day was coming. The night was turning into the day. And they all looked back, and that picture, it sort of faded. When it faded back into all they could see was the stars in the sky. But the one star that had started all this, the one star that they couldn't, was gone. They couldn't see that one. And the light of the dusk was a bit further as the sun rose in the east. And one by one, all the animals, they just were there, and you blinked and they were gone as they went back to the normal homes and the normal lives and the normal places where they lived. Now, there's a story that's told about the Celtic forest a long time ago. And they say on Christmas Eve, all the animals can talk, just for half an hour or so. And they would say that once, a long time ago on one night, on the very first of all the Christmas Eves, there was a time in the Celtic forest when the forest was at peace. But they were in peace with themselves. They were in peace because love came into their hearts. And they were with peace. For there was no fear in the forest that night. Now, fear can be a good thing. Fear can keep you alert and it can keep you alive. But no fear. There's only one time in the whole of the history of the Celtic forest there's been no fear in the forest. But there was no hunger either. Because what all the animals will say 2,000 odd years later is that that night, when the peace came into the forest, there was no fear and there was no hunger, just the wants. It's an old gypsy story from the north of Scotland.
Hey.
And well told by you. Oh my goodness, Father Christmas.
Father Christmas is here. Well, I'm just...
Although there are four
Just
of
for
us
half
with
an
the
hour.
magnificent white beards. There are four of us with the magnificent white beard, so it's going to be a little difficult to tell which is which.
Right, Baba, so you're up with money. So I did say for the next two storytellers, there would be Seth next and then Donald. And then it's
Seth
over
and
to
Donald.
you. Then it's over to
All
you,
right,
my
thank
friend.
you.
Is that okay?
Thank you for filling in for me, for filling in for you while I was filling in for John and filling in for you.
I can see you're fine with it. So I've got to go
It's
and
been a
meet someone.
fulfilling enjoy. All right,
So
Seth and then Donald.
So have we got a Riyadh tonight?
Yes, someone did. Hey, Mike, before you
Abdul is
sign off.
there.
I'm here, guys.
There's Abdul.
Oh, is that?
That's
Which
me.
one?
Yeah, that's
I'm
me.
not seeing
Hello.
anybody.
Hello.
Ah, there you are. Yes, Abdul.
Hi, Abdul.
Yes.
Hello, Babasi.
Hey, Abdul.
Good. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
gonna
having
be the
some-
one. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we got to make sure
Is
we
it-
get you
is-
in too.
Is it my turn, sir?
Say again.
I mean, is it my turn? Can I talk?
Sure, we'll do that. And then Seth, if you don't mind. By the way, Seth, before I forget, your picture on Facebook does not do you justice. But then I might be a bit prejudiced.
Ah, you mean the picture where I'm wearing a hat?
Okay, that one too. I've seen several pictures of you, but this and this, you
Yeah.
are magnificent, sir. Okay, Abdul, I will be
Yes.
quiet, and please do tell us about your Riyadh.
Oh yeah. Okay. So thanks for that, guys. I'm so proud to be here tonight to talk about the Riyadh, and tonight is gonna be about Riyadh Spice. It's one of our Riyadhs in Marrakesh. I need Ali for some help. Just sharing some pictures. Hello, Ali. Are you here? Can you help?
Yes, Abdul, I'm here.
So
I'm
could you please
preparing the photos.
prepare these pictures? Yeah. So while Ali's preparing the pictures, John has been experienced the life of Riyadh in Marrakesh, so he knows about the Riyadh a bit, and it would be good for you guys to visit as well. It's going to be really a nice experience. And Riyadh Spice is one of the our magical Riyadhs in Marrakesh, and it's owned by Mike and Lucy Anderson. They are the owners of the place. Yeah, so Riyadh Spice is one of the newest Riyadh that we have, and it's situated in Medina, in the heart of the Medina. It's really a nice place, and the owner have renovated this place for like 2 years, working to make all the sculpture, all the architect stuff, all the decoration, everything's to look amazing for the guests. And it's a house that has about 10 individual rooms, really big rooms, Yeah. So can you just get the picture, Ali, please?
اوكي عبدو.
There are a lot of things that we do for our guests in Medina, like I did said before. So this picture here, this is the main door of the Riyadh Spice. We can see that the amazing door with the hand of Fatima and all that decorations and the metal things in the wood. It's really amazing place. The street called Saida Hansal, and that name it's for the family that has been stayed in that place for like what I think same family have been there for 17 generation, which is a really big family respected in Marrakesh that time, and they've moved into this place. So the name of the street is called Saida Hansal, the Derb. Can you move in, Ali? Yeah. So this is the entrance inside by the hallway. You can see all the lamps and all the stuff here. Really nice place, and got all the walk. All the lamps from the souks. The Tadlak walk. The Tadlak walk. This is the courtyard with the pool. You can see the dipping pool. Really amazing. The view at night is really different because you can see all the stars in the pool. It's really nice place, really good pool for swimming. People can love it, and the courtyard is really big. They're down here. We've got 2 rooms in the pool. They've got the annex room and the Korean room, and we've got kitchen that we can use also for cooking class. We do cooking class in the house as well, and the pool is warmed up. So this is one of the bathroom of the rooms, the annex room. It's a really nice place, really nice room. The rooms are really high ceiling, big space. This is one of the family Duweria. We call them Duweria. They're on the left side, really big rooms that can fit up to 6 people can be in that room. It's not only that part because you get other parts, so it's really big rooms. Here we got this room called Saffron. This is a bathroom. You can see the hammam. It's really nice place, really big place in the area. And the room called Saffron. And as I said, the Riyadh Spice, then you can see that spices, like all the spices. So the name of the rooms in Riyadh, it's all related to the spices. So we've got anise room, coriander, paprika, ginger room, saffron room, ras al hanout. So this is all the name of the spices in Morocco. This is the ginger room. Really nice room as well. I think next one. Yeah, same. This is a same room. Yeah, this is the Safrania. Here we got this room upstairs. It's a really amazing room. Nice room for the honeymoon, for the very special occasion people. Called Ras Al Hanout. This is a really nice room on the top roof, and it's made for a lot of stuff. So you can see the curtains around. It's all so all the rooms got all the things that people need, like air conditioners, the hammam warmed up, the TV, the all the things that people can need in that room is really valuable. We got a little terrace for this room as well. It's the same room here for the Ras Al Hanout. Yeah, same. Yeah, you see the pool. This is how it looks like during the day with the flower in the middle. Yeah, same again. This is another room. You can see how the large the room are. So this is the part of the roof terrace.
Yeah, that's it. That's the old.
Yeah. So as I said, the house is a really big house. 10 rooms in total. 10 rooms in total. Really big rooms. Really big place, and it's really amazing house for a guest. And the experience there is really incredible. Really quiet inside the house, and it's I just said it's in the middle of the Medina. We're not far from the square. We're very close to the taxi places. The access is easy to the house. We're around to the center, so we got all the minimum that people can visit: the museums, the Quranic school. We're even not far from the place. The new cafe, the World Storytelling Cafe. It's like about 5 minutes walking distance from the house. It's really amazing, and I would recommend you guys to come and visit us. And yeah, so we hopefully can see you soon. As I said, John has been before, so he would share that experience with you. So looking forward to see you soon, inshallah. That's it. If you have any question or anything, I'm here to help. Thanks, guys.
Abdu, hi.
Hi, sir.
It's Baden. I'm not asking for myself, but I know most of the gentlemen here would be thinking the same thing.
Yes, sir.
In one of the pictures in the
Yeah.
pool, there
Yeah.
were a couple of ladies lounging in and near the.
Yeah.
I'm not asking for myself, Sarah.
Yeah.
I know how these guys think. Is this
What's that?
the ladies who were lounging in the pool and near the pool? Do they come with the room when you book, or is this?
Yeah, they come with the room, of course. The pool is only for people that stays in Korea. So if you come
You
with
mean
your
are they
friends,
staff?
I don't understand the question
They
exactly.
mean
So I'm
are they
sorry.
staff?
That's probably just as well, Abdul. I think we should move on.
You're welcome. You're welcome, sir. That's
Thank
what I'm
you,
sure.
Abdul.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that's what I'm saying. You
Sarah,
should come
I
and
agree.
visit us. Please, guys, come and stay here. Now, you would love it.
Oh, Abdul, this is thumbs up to you. That was thumbs down
Beautiful
to Baden.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thumbs
Beautiful
up to
place.
you.
Don't
Thumbs
you.
down
feel
to Baden. He's
Thank you,
trying to
don't
get
feel
the
bad
joke.
about it. Don't
Thank
feel
you,
bad about
Professor.
it. My wife Liz was watching. She asked the same question.
Oh, you guys are
Abdul,
naughty
thank
today.
you for a very good presentation.
Thank you, guys.
Beautiful place. It looks lovely. Looks so
Thank
lovely.
you so much. Thank
I
you so
like
much,
the
guys.
rose petals in the pool.
Yeah.
The rose
Okay.
petals in the
I
pool.
should.
And the stars coming down. That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, the star is not going to be nice. It's just, the pool, we have a system, at night, we turn it on and you can see the stars coming in the pool. You see, so the view at night, it's
Ooh.
amazing. It's like the stars in the pool, but actually there are lead lamps that we have in the pool. So at night is going on. And if you switch off all the light in the rear, the stars shows in the middle of the pool, which is amazing.
Whoa,
Brilliant.
fantastico.
Yeah, so when you come and visit, guys, we will make it definitely a good experience. So I did say that John has been before, so he got lost and he have a lovely time, and you would have the same. And you should bring your wife and kids, and you're welcome. That's it. I'm sorry for the picture with the two ladies. I'm just trying to share with you the
guys
life.
aren't.
They
The
love it. I
guys
know they
on.
love it.
Don't apologize. The
They
guys
love it.
on.
They love it. It's real. It's real.
All right. Thank you, Abdul. That was very, very wonderful.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
And the telling is going to be difficult to follow that wonderful presentation. But Seth, if you're up to it, we're ready for you.
Well,
Thank you,
hello
Allah.
everybody. Good evening. Assalamu alaikum. Azul.
Azul Filoun.
Always, inshallah. I hope everyone's well. Lovely to see something of the city of Marrakesh, and you're so close to that very famous tower there. Anyway, I think maybe, although we're seeing Marrakesh, Mike told a story which is very much a Christmas story. I'm not going to tell a Christmas story, but I am going to tell a winter story, and it comes from Korea. In fact, that's why I'm wearing my hanbok. This is a Korean outfit, and I've done a lot of work in Korea. I've been fortunate to go to Korea many times in work. I've been to North Korea too. And every time I go, wherever I go in the world, I'm very interested in the stories. So here is a story from Korea, which is a winter story, but it doesn't start in the winter. And just before I start, the interesting thing about Korea, even though it is arguably the most wired country in the world, I mean, they have Samsung, they have so many electronics, they know what they're talking about. It's a wired country. But despite that, when you talk to Koreans, they're very, very aware that there are spirits in the world. You'd be amazed at how sophisticated people are really in touch with the spirit world and the world of story. And every place you go to in Korea, the little village, the big places, wherever you go, it will be connected to story, and there will be a story. My telephone's ringing downstairs. So
It's the spirits.
can you hear it?
It's the spirits.
Can you hear it?
Yes.
You see, I can't hear it very well because I'm deaf. But let the spirit have its, yeah. I wear a hearing aid in this ear and I can't hear in this ear. But It's a very loud ring, so I'm very sorry about that. But it will stop. It also goes on a long time because it takes me a long time to hear. But back to the story. So wherever you go, whatever village, whatever town, on the tourist brochure, there is always a story connected to a particular rock or a particular tree or a particular part of that town. And when that phone stops ringing, I will start the story. And of course, you always start a story with a song. And the most famous song of all Korea is Arirang, Arirang, Arario, Arirang, 고개로 넘어간다. 아리랑 아리랑 아라리요 아리랑 고개로 넘어간다. Voices call me from far away. Back to my home I'll go again one day. And it's time for the story. And the story has its own introduction once more with a song. Ari ari rang suri suri rang arariga nane ari rang arariga nane. Here is a story for you. What is this story? What will it do? Ari ari rang suri suri rang arari ganane ari rang There was an old man and an old woman, and they lived in a small cottage, a small hut-like house by a forest. They were very kind, gentle, dear people. And the people in the village down the hill, they thought, what lovely people they are. They're kind, they're gentle, they're very generous. But the sadness that these people had was that they had no children. And even though they loved each other so much, the love that they had to spare, which would have been given to children, was given to everyone around them, including their rich, nasty, mean, greedy neighbor. And even though he was rich and nasty and greedy and mean, sorry, I thought I heard something on there. Even though he was nasty and mean, they were kind to him. And every springtime, when the first radishes came through the ground, when the first lettuces grew, they would take them up the hill to their neighbor and they would knock on the door. And the neighbor would open his door and he would say, yes, what do you want? And being the kind and gentle people that they were, they said, dear neighbor, these are our first radishes. These are our first lettuces. And because you are our neighbor, they are for you. And he picked them up, he took them, and he closed the door, bang! And he didn't even say thank you. Well, this happened throughout the year when the first, now what are those things called? Chestnuts. When the first chestnuts were on the trees and they were too old now to gather them, they couldn't even knock them with a stick. They waited till they fell to the ground and they would with difficulty, they'd pick them up and they would roast them. And the first chestnuts they would take to their neighbor and they would knock on the door and the same would happen. What do you want? These are our first chestnuts because you're our neighbor, they are for you. Okay, thank you, Matt. Actually, I slipped in a thank you there because you would expect it. But he didn't say thank you. the winter came. It was a hard winter. It was a cold winter, and the snow fell, and there was snow on snow, and snow on snow. And they sat in their little hut of a house in front of the fire, and they put their hands to the fire, and their hands were warm, but the rest of them was freezing. And the old woman looked in the corner where the wood pile was, and she realized that if they didn't get any more wood that night, they would surely freeze to death. And she said, "There's not much wood left." And he said, "Don't worry, dear, I'll go and get it. But it's snowing out there, it's icy. If you fall and slip, and you could break a hip, and then what would we do?" "Yes, but if we don't get any wood tonight, we will freeze to death. Oh, wrap up warm, be careful." And he got up on his old legs and he walked out of that house. And as he walked over the snow, it was already frozen on the top of it. Crunch, 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 crunch. And he walked into the wood. But even in the wood, there was snow and there was ice. And any little bits of stick or wood that he picked up, well, there was so much wet on them that they wouldn't burn. And he had to move the snow to find an occasional broken stick. And he put them in he had an A-frame satchel behind him, very special thing you have in Korea, little shelf, and the little, you just pile them onto the shelf and then you tie them up as you get more. But he wasn't getting any. And then he heard. And he saw on a branch of a tree, there was a little bird, a songbird in winter, a yellow songbird. And he was intrigued, and the bird flew from one branch to the other, and to the other, and to the other, and went deeper and deeper into the forest. And the old man followed. He was intrigued. He followed this bird. And the bird stopped on one branch, as if it was saying, "Look down, look down, look down, look." And he looked down. And below that branch, there was a little fountain, a little spring of water, which he'd never seen before. And by now he was tired, he was cold, he was thirsty. But he thought, "Oh, I'll get some of that water. I'll have a little drink." And he cupped his hand and he took a little sip of the water. But it wasn't even cold. And it was so clear and fresh. And he took another. But now he was very tired. And he leaned against a tree. And before you knew it, he was asleep. When he suddenly woke up, he didn't know how long he'd been sleeping, for a minute, for 5 minutes, for an hour. But he suddenly realized, he remembered he had something to do. He had to pick up wood. And he sprang to his feet and he slapped his thigh and he started walking through that forest with, whatever the word is, with energy that was so strong and so virile. And he picked up more and more and more sticks. And before you knew it, his whole A-frame satchel was full of sticks. And he walked back holding onto those and onto that wood. And because he was holding on so tight, he couldn't knock on the door. So he kicked on the door and his wife opened the door. And as she opened the door, she said, what do you mean? What? Let me in, woman. We need some wood to put on the fire. We need to keep warm. But you're young again and very handsome. What will people think? Oh, forget about that. Let's just get in the house. And he went into the house, and that night they had warmth. Next morning, the neighbor looked over his fence. He was looking over and said, what's going on now? Who are those new people? Where are those people? And they were busy. They were cleaning the snow off the roof, and they were putting the jars of the kimchi into the snow, and they were making a track so that they could walk from the front gate to the door, and they were busy and busy and busy. And the neighbor thought, who are those people? And he went down that hill, and he said, they'd gone in now for a cup of tea, and he knocked on that door, and he said, what's going on? Where's my neighbors? Who are you? Why did you come here? And being the nice, kind, thoughtful, gentle people that they were, they told him everything that I've told you. And before they finished the story, whoosh, he was off into that forest. Now that was about 10 o'clock in the morning. Now it was getting dark, it was 4 o'clock. And the wife said, he's not come back. He must have fallen over, broken a limb. The wild animals must have got him. Let's go and find him. But the one thing I forgot to tell you, the very important thing, which of course, who is it there? Oh yes, Norman recognizes, of course, is that the old man took his wife in the middle of the night to get some of that water, and he brought her home. Sorry about that. And so she was young again, and so they were both young. But now these young people went into the forest to find out what had happened. And they looked, and they looked, and they looked, but they couldn't find anything, apart from a little pile of clothes by that little spring. You see, an animal has killed him. Animals don't eat flesh. They don't eat clothes. They just eat the flesh and leave the clothes there. Look, that's his clothes. He's been eaten. And then they saw the clothes, a pile of clothes move. And then they heard the sound of a baby. And they leant down and they picked up that baby. And she looked at him, and he looked at her. And without a word, they both knew what each meant. And they took that baby home, and they brought that baby up. And as the baby grew, all the people in the village said, what a kind, gentle, thoughtful baby that is. And when he became a man, he was the kindest and gentlest person in the village, because maybe he'd have something in his second life that he didn't get in his first life. I don't have to tell you what that is. Thank you very much.
Seth, that was sensational. I was trying to make a pun with your name, but I messed up. That was sensational. I love that story.
It's a lovely story.
And I've heard different versions of it.
I think Norman, with his vast wealth of stories, you know that story, don't you, Norman?
Yes, and my apologies for nodding my head. It was, I was like, but I was.
I'm delighted you nodded your head, because you know story structure, whether you know that story or not. And of course, yeah. But I was delighted to see you nod. I thought, oh, because actually I have to tell you, I'm a little bit nervous tonight, because I'm so, what's the word? I'm so sort of allergic to online storytelling. Unless I'm recording and I just tell, and I just record, I don't edit. But you see that Gary Cordingley asked me if I would come and do an evening. And now he's asked me if I would do the last evening before going to Morocco as a guest. But he'd forgotten to initially ask me months ago, would you come on and do an evening? And I said, yes, I would. And then I didn't get the invitation, So that's why you haven't seen me. But here I am. And anyway,
and we're glad you're here. We're very glad that you're here. This has been a very special treat. And Norman, you lend credence to the expression that storytellers, especially griots, are living libraries. And I think you have more tomes in your library than several of us put together. And that's a tall order. All right. Baden, you're on next. Once again, a round of applause for Seth. Yay! So glad to make your acquaintance, sir. Sarah, please stand by. I think, Keith, are you going to tell stories this evening?
Well, I can do, but I mean, there's not a lot of time, maybe, so I'm happy just to listen.
Okay.
So,
We'll play it by ear.
See what time's left.
Okay, Bob, would you like to tell a story this evening?
Oh, not today. I'm going to be a listener. So thank you.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. That's how we learn. So I think right now it's going to be Baden, then Donald, and then Sarah. Oh, did I leave you out, cousin? Oh, please, a 1,000 buttered biscuits. Please accept my apologies. So it's going to be Baden, Donald, Sarah, and last but not least, David. All right?
Wow.
Okay. Baden, you're up.
Well, just great to be here. Great to see you, Seth. Long time. And I don't know why you're worried about telling online. You are amazing wherever, whatever. Absolutely brilliant to hear you, as always. I've heard a couple of news stories in the last couple of weeks. And the one I'm going to tell tonight is the latest one that I've come across. You're going to have to bear with me. It's brand new. Hasn't bedded yet, and it's actually the first time of telling. It's a Nigerian story, and it's a story about a very, very wealthy man, an Oba, who has everything a man could want. A massive house full of art and artifacts and sculptures, bronzes, and this man has everything one's heart could desire, apart from a wife to make his life complete. We'll call him Oba Winfrey. I wasn't sure if that was going to work, but I think I'm going to just with it. So, Oba Winfrey has, apart from anything else, a collection of cows, which is unusual in that part of the world because they are all white. And for some reason, this is a rarity in that part of the world. And if you have one, you're considered very fortunate. Fortunate in every sense of the word, in that you are a lucky man, but also that you are a man of great fortune, i.e. great wealth. Well, Oprah Winfrey has not one, but 7 of these cows. And every morning he takes them out to pasture and they feed all day. He brings them home at night, puts them in the barn, milks them in the morning and produces, they give him a rich yield. And with this, he sells the excess that he gets. And in this way, he becomes even wealthier. And so his life goes on until one day, that inevitable day that pops up in stories, when he goes to milk the cows and he gets nothing, puffs of air and dust. And he thinks, oh, maybe they've eaten all the grass in the field where I keep them. Maybe there's no more nourishment there for them. So he takes them a bit further away to a meadow where the grass grows knee-high, and he leaves them there for 2 or 3 days. And when they're well fed, he brings them back to the barn, and the next morning he goes down to milk them. And yet again, there's nothing. Puffs of air and dust. Now this is strange, he thinks. But he takes them a little bit further away to a fertile valley where the green that grows looks as lush as anything that grows in the valleys of the Nile River. And he leaves them there for an entire week, brings them home, aims to milk them, and yet again gets nothing. Now, up till this point, because of where he lives and because of how people lived at that time, there was no thought in his mind of foul play, of jealousy or envy from neighbors. But now he's beginning to wonder, perhaps someone is coming into my barn at night and stealing the milk from my cows. So that night he decides to sit up, and he does. And lo and behold, on the stroke of midnight, he hears a rustling and like a gentle whisper on the wind. And to his astonishment, 7 golden threads descend from the heavens, and down on each golden thread come 7 beautiful women, each one as beautiful as those women that you saw earlier lounging by the pool. And in the water, Sarah's shaking her head. I'm in so much trouble with Sarah. It's not even funny. Each one of these women is absolutely beautiful. And each is wearing a diaphanous silken gown, which in the gleam of the moonlight reveals the shape of her beautiful body. I'll just leave you with that image for a moment or two. Okay, guys, you're getting a bit creepy and pervy now, so I'm going to move on. Now, he steps out from behind his hiding place because he's noticed that they're doing exactly what he suspected. They're milking his cows. And as soon as they hear him, they quickly grab their churns and they ascend their silken ropes. He's just in time to grab the last one before she's able to escape. He grabs hold of her, he buries his head in the fold of her neck and shoulder. He inhales her wonderful scent. He feels, as he holds her tight, the warmth of her body against his. I'm going to just leave you with that for a second or two. That's enough, gentlemen. And she screams at him, "Let me go, let me go." He says, "No," because this is the woman he's ever seen. This is the reason why he's never married, because now he knows this is the woman of his dreams. This is the woman of all his desires. And beside her protestations and her shouting, he says, "No, I will not. Stay here with me. Stay here. Marry me." She says, "I must get back to my father, the sky god." "No," he says, "you must stay here and be my wife." Eventually, with his charm, his smiles, he persuades her. And she says, "Please allow me to go." And get my... He comes back. You can still hear me?
You were frozen for a second. You were
Okay.
frozen for a second. Continue.
She goes to her father, she gets her father's permission, she comes back and she marries him. And with her, she brings a basket. And she says, "Promise me this one thing. I will be faithful to you. I will be your wife. I will love you, and I will honor you all your days. Do not look in this basket until I tell you that it is time for you to see what it contains." He places the basket high upon a shelf. The years go on, and they're happy together. And then one day, while she's out of the house, he reaches up onto the shelf to find something and accidentally bumps the basket. It moves easily, lightly, as if there's nothing in it. And he thinks to himself, "Oh, I wonder what that is. But he remembers his promise. Falls from the shelf
Bless you.
onto the floor. It doesn't open. He thinks, strange. It's got a lid, but the lid didn't come off. He goes to pick it up, and it's so light, he thinks, what could possibly be in there? And then curiosity, natural human curiosity gets the better of him. He lifts the lid, and what he sees in there makes him laugh. He bursts out laughing, and he cannot stop laughing. He laughs, he laughs, he rolls on the floor with laughter, roaring, gasping for breath. His wife comes home and sees him, and she knows instantly what's happened. You've looked in the basket, haven't you? He says, yes. Through gasps of laughter. Why are you laughing? She says. Because, he says, there's nothing in it. I can't believe you made such a big thing of an empty fits of laughter, roaring. His wife doesn't laugh. She says, what is in there? I promised to share with you when I was ready. You are laughing at my hopes and my dreams, which you cannot see, not share them with you. Because you have broken that trust, I must leave you. But he realized what he'd done, turned, begged, and pleaded with her to stay, but she said, no, I cannot. And she went out to the barn, and she ascended that golden thread and went back. Whence she came. Well, as happened, he married her, they had children, and as those children grew, when they came of age, he went to them and he said, learn this, my children, as I have learned. Laugh at someone else's dreams. And that is the message of this story. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for telling. And if that's the rough draft, I can't wait to hear the final Baden approved version. Thank you, sir. And now, Donald, if you'll be so kind as to. But right now, everyone give a round of applause for all the tellers thus far. All right.
If you give me a second.
There you are. Sure. Would you like someone else to go ahead of you?
No, it's okay.
All right. This assemblage of those gifted with the white and gray beards. Yes. And young Mr. Baden, too.
I just noticed,
all right, Donald.
I just noticed that my battery only had 3 minutes left and it had been unplugged, so it's plugged in again. It's back and we're back on track. Now, I was going to tell you a Scottish story, and this story was actually a poem, and it was written by Scotland's national poet Robert Burns, and the name of the poem is Tam o' Shanter. Now, I'm not going to recite the poem because it's all written in Scots and I don't understand a lot of it, so I'm quite sure most of you won't. But Tam o' Shanter. Tam is Scots name for Tom, Thomas, and Shanter is a village in Ayrshire on the west coast of Scotland. So he's Tam of Shanter, Tam O'Shanter. And Tam would go to market once a week. And he would sell his wares. And sometimes he would make money. And sometimes he wouldn't make money. But on the times that he did make money, when the market was over, he would meet up with his friend, Suitor Johnny. Suitor is a Scots word for a cobbler or a shoe repairer, shoemaker. And Suitor Johnny and Tam would go to the pub. And they would meet up with other friends. They'd meet up with the miller and all sorts, the blacksmith, and they would sit and would have a great time. Now, while Tam was in the pub, Tam's wife is sitting at home, waiting for him. Where is he? I know where he is. He'll be in the pub with that Suitor Johnny, and he'll be in the pub with the miller, and he'll be in the pub with the blacksmith, and he'll be drinking all the money away that he's earned today. And there's a line in the poem that says, she sits gathering brows like the gathering storm, and nursing her wrath to keep it warm. Just wait until he gets in. And she thought to herself, I've warned him many, many times. He's riding home in the dark through the forest. That forest, they say, is haunted. And I've told him that one night he's going to be riding through and something pretty nasty is going to happen to him. Anyway, Tam is in the pub and he's drinking away and they're singing and they're on the tables and they're having a wonderful time. But as everyone knows, when you're having a good time, you think it's only about 8 o'clock at night until you look at the clock and you realise it's almost midnight. How time flies when you're having fun. So the barmaid, the landlady, comes and said, time up, time, gentlemen, please, come on, don't you have homes to go to? And they all finish their drinks. And Tam stepped out the door. He hadn't noticed that while he was sitting drinking, having fun, the wind had whipped up and it started to rain. And it was blowing and it was raining. The rain was pouring down. And Tam's poor old horse, Meg, was standing there in the rain and thinking to herself, oh, come on, Tam, please hurry up. But Tam's stopping and he's saying good night to all his friends as if it's the last time he'll ever see them, and he'll see them the next week at the market. But, oh, goodbye, my good friend, you're my best friend. You know what people are like when they've got a few drinks in them. Eventually, Tam climbs on Meg's back. And Meg, she knew the way home. Tam didn't know his way home. He'd too much to drink, but Meg knew. And Meg started to walk home slowly, plodding along through the wind and the rain, and it came down heavier, the wind blew stronger, and it was raining, pouring down. Tam didn't care. He was so much whiskey in him that he didn't even know it was raining. And he rode along, he sang to himself, down by yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, riding along. And he went through the dark forest, and the rain came down on him, and the wind whistled through the trees. And as he rode along, he came closer and closer to the ruins of the old Alloway Kirk. Now, Alloway is another town in Ayrshire. That's where Robert Burns was born. And the kirk like similar to Dutch and German, a kirk in Scots is a church. So it's in ruins. And as Tam approached it, he noticed there were lights. The ruins of the church was lit up, and he's sure he could hear music. And he rode forward and forward until he came to the wall of the old ruined church. And he climbed down from Meg and walked over, and he looked through a gap in the wall, and he could not believe his eyes. He couldn't believe his eyes. There were witches, and there were skeletons, and there were ghosts, and there were ghouls, and there were zombies, and any other horrible creature you could think of, all dancing to fiddle music. And who was playing the fiddle? The devil himself, sitting on top of a tombstone, playing away, while all the horrible ghosts and ghouls and witches danced. And as Tam watched them, fascinated, he noticed one witch in particular. And this witch was a young woman. And she was beautiful. Oh, how lovely she was, Tam thought. And she moved just like a ballet dancer. She was fantastic. And she was wearing a cutty sark. Now, a cutty sark in Scots, you may have heard of the ship, the Cutty Sark, which now lies at Greenwich, in London. A cutty sark is a short shirt, just above her, came to just above her knees. And she's dancing around. And Tam, fascinated, get carried away, and he shouted out, "Well done, Cutty Sark!" Suddenly, the music stopped and the lights went out. And Tam had a terrible, terrible feeling of dread. And he slowly walked back to his horse. And just as he was climbing on Meg's back, he heard the shout, "Get him!" And Tam turned round, and the witches and the ghosts were running towards him, flying towards him. "Giddy up, Meg, giddy up," said Tam, and he started to ride and ride and ride faster and faster. And the witches were catching up and catching up and catching up. And at the front was Cutty Sark. And Cutty Sark was getting closer and closer and closer. And Tam thought to himself, if I can get to the bridge and cross the keystone of the bridge, then I'm safe, because he knew that witches cannot cross running water. So the stream, or the burn as we call it in Scotland, the burn was rushing fast with all the rain, and Tam approached the bridge, and Cutty Sark was getting closer and closer and closer and closer. And Tam got to the bridge, and just as she was about to pass over the keystone, Cutty Sark reached out and grabbed onto Meg's tail and pulled, and Meg, running as fast as she could, the tail come off in Cutty Sark's hand. And Tam rode home, and he thought to himself as he got home, before he went through the front door, and before his wife had her piece to say, and believe me, she had a lot to say, Tam thought to himself, you know, in future, I'm just going to look after my responsibilities. And when I come out of market, I'm not going to go with Suitor Johnny. I'm not going to go with the miller. I'm going to go back home to my lovely wife. And in future, that's what he did. Thank you.
All right. we're having quite the variety of our telling. Oh, by the way, for those listening on Facebook and other social medias, this is Rock the Casbah Sunday, and feel free to donate toward the upcoming Marrakesh International Storytelling Festival scheduled in February of 2022. If you're tuned in to worldstorytelling.com, worldstorytellingcafe.com, there's a golden button that you can hit to make a donation. Otherwise, check out your Facebook links, and we welcome and gleefully accept all donations, big and small. All right. With that said, the techno imps seem to be quite busy today. I call them the techno imps. Seem to be quite busy today. I think our next teller is Sarah, then David, then Norman. All right. David's internet went out earlier, but we're going to go Sarah, then David, then Norman. All right. And Norman, yes, thank you for your note. I just got the message about today about the same time you got yours. But I'm not complaining. Without further ado or ado, Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just, Seth, it was actually Seth who asked what I was doing, and I'm not writing the stories, I'm doing drawings. I have a book of collection of recipes. And most of them are photocopies, so they're really boring.
Okay, sorry, Sarah, but the thing is, it would have been really nice if you'd told us beforehand that you were drawing, because you seemed very distracted, and I've got the whole gallery on, and I kept looking. I thought, what's he doing? So sorry about that, but maybe next time.
Yes, sorry. Yes.
Hey,
It's also
there's always something going on in the background. I thought she was knitting, but then she sent me a mix. Well, no, I did. I couldn't see what your hands were doing. And then she sent the message she was drawing. And then someone else sent me a message that we have a drawing for books. And that is down the chat. So there's always something going on in the background. And I never take offense.
I know, but that's one of my issues, that because I'm such a engaged storyteller, I engage with the audience. And that's why I'm allergic to, but there we are. Anyway. Finished.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, because I'm an interactive storyteller, and it limits how you can interact on the Zoom because of the vagrancies in synchronization. But I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. However, I did say, without further ado, Sarah, are you going to tell us a story?
I will tell you a story. I will tell you a story. Yes.
All right.
Sorry, I do a lot of drawing or doodling because it helps me remember things, and it really helps me if I make a shape. I remember things. It's like I try and remember stories by making a movement. When I get lost in a story, I try and pin it with a movement. It's because I was originally a dancer, I think. Yesterday, I was in Somerset, and I've been performing in a garden, in a sculpture garden in Somerset. And next week, I'm really focusing on the area. And this is a story from Wincanton in Somerset. And it's about a man called Jack White. And of course, I like that because my children will snicker and go, Jack White of the White Stripes. It's not quite. This was a young man who was forever getting into trouble. And at first, it was minor things. But as he grew up, he never quite held down a job. He got married, and everybody was hopeful that things would change and he would improve and life would change for him. But it didn't. He would hold down a job for months and then something would happen. Well, he lived in this town called Wincanton, and he got a job in the next town along called Castle Carey. And there's a big old pub there called the George, and it's still there now. And he was working as the ostler. He was working out the back in the stables. And suddenly a young man came in, and there was a lot of gossip. He had been away at the wars, and he had got a bag of gold. Now, Jack was always up for an idea, and he heard about the bag of gold. The young man with a bag of gold, but He had a bag of gold, but no horse, which was unusual. Anyway, the gossip went round the pub, and he would be walking that night on to Wincanton because he had someone to meet there. Jack, oh yes, he would be walking to Wincanton. That was home. It was away, but not too far. In those days, they walked much further than we do now, and they expected to walk. If you didn't have a horse, you had to walk home. So come nightfall, the young man with the money started walking. Jack waited a while and then followed. He followed at a distance behind, but about 2/3 of the way back, near a place called Bratton Seymour, he overtook the young man, and without even looking, he cudgelled him. And the young man with the bag of gold rolled into the ditch face down. But there was the bag. Jack didn't wait, didn't see whether the man was alive or dead, picked up the gold and went home. Well, there must have been a bit of cloth or material on the road because the body wasn't far enough into the ditch. The next day, somebody saw the cloth, rolled out the body, and there was a fuss and a bother. The body was brought to the church in Wincanton, down the bottom of the hill, and it was laid out. And it was obvious that no natural causes had killed the young man. So every young person was asked to come past and pay their respects, because there was a tradition in that time that guilt would out. And the men were asked to file past the body. And they did. But one was more reticent than others. It was Jack. But you see, Jack had never seen the face of this man, so he didn't know that they'd found the body that he had thought he had rolled into the ditch. So he went up. And it is said that as he walked past, blood flowed from the young man who was dead. And this, of course, was proof of guilt. Immediately, he was brought before the local magistrate. And he had nothing to prove he was innocent. He was guilty of killing somebody. He didn't know if it was this one or not. And how that blood had run, he didn't know. But it had been seen and he had been caught. And then the twist came, you see. For this rich young man with the bag of gold who was walking home to meet somebody, it was his brother. His brother that had been away at the Spanish Wars, who had done well for himself, who wasn't a wastrel like his brother Jack. And he was coming back with gold to set up his family. And there was his family killing him. Of course, the local community was distraught that somebody could do something so bad and so evil. So the punishment seemed to have to fit the crime. Now, it's said he was hung in a gibbet, an iron casement around him, alive to die. But that would not have happened, not even to such a horrible thing. So he would probably have been dead, but still he was hung in a metal cage on the corner of the road where Bratton Seymour and the road to Carey cross. Immediately, of course, because of such a notorious crime, there was said to be a ghost. One night, a local, well-known gentleman, supposedly a general even, was reputed to be walking from Bratton Seymour back to his home when he passed the gibbet, still with the skeleton in, and he called up, "Night, Jack." When he was answered, "Make it home safe, General," the poor man was so terrified he ran all the way home. It is still said to be a ghostly corner. There was a notorious stake there for many years, just so that people remembered. And a lot of these things are there so that others don't make the same mistake. But Jack White is said to still haunt that corner, and many go to see the spot even today. And that is my story of Jack White outside Wincanton in Somerset. Thank you.
Sarah, that was a sensational story, a little bit different from what I'm used to hearing from you, but nonetheless sensational. Thank you very, very much.
I don't often tell truth. There are bits of it that they say is not true. They say it's not true that they laid him out and the blood flowed, but it was part of the notoriety of the offence that I think things like that got added. And the fact
Which is
that,
a wonderful
way that stories build, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yes. I really appreciate that. Thank you very, very much.
Okay.
And I think our next person up, I called him my cousin from Texas because we're both in the United States. And so next up is David Thompson. And then we're going to go with you, Norm, okay? All right, David, David, I think it's time for you to tell a tale or two.
All right.
One.
Don't mess with me.
Oh, I love messing with you.
You
And what
know
a
that's
lovely mess
true.
you are.
Hey, be careful. Hell hath no fury like a rabid queen. So forget that. Anyway. The story I'm going to tell you today is one I haven't told in a while, and it comes from my studies when I was working on my master's in folklore and the oral tradition. I had this extremely fascinating class that I helped construct on the fairy tale salons of Paris in the late 17th, early 18th centuries. And there were three women who were very, very important in writing fairy tales. Marie-Catherine La Jumelle de Bonville, Comtesse d'Aulnoy, Marie-Jeanne de Viardon-Ritier, and Henriette Julie de Castelnau, Comtesse de Murat. Now, this was very important because these women wrote fairy tales to criticize the society, to criticize the government. Murat for short, she was actually banished from court for one of her fairy tales. This is a fascinating group of women, and their studies are becoming more and more and more available in the stories they wrote. But we'll go back. This is a story written by Marie-Jeanne de Viardon-Ritier, who was the niece of the famous Charles Perrault, and Perrault, Puss in Boots, things like that. But La Ritier was far more popular. Here we are. This is The Enchantments of Eloquence. Oh, my friends, there was once a very rich man who had a very beautiful daughter, but sadly had lost his wife. Well, in those days, you had to be married. And also, my friends, there was a very interesting woman with two daughters who lost her husband. But if you know the laws, women could not inherit anything. They had to be married. So for some reason and somehow, the very rich man and the treasure hunting widow married, bringing her two daughters and his one daughter together in one home. Now, we have to remember that the young daughter of the rich man was very kind and very nice and quite cultured and very polite, whereas the two stepsisters, as we will call them, were anything but corrupt and have gross manners. It was horrid. It was horrid. However, the stepmother made life miserable for the man's daughter. She had to do everything while her daughters sat back and, oh, they pripped and preened and complained and gave orders. And soon it was that the merchant man, the man who was rich, he had to go off on a trip. Well, that meant his second wife, the evil stepmother, as we shall call her, had control of the home. Well, one morning, the stepmother came and said, "You go to the forest, go to the well in the forest and bring us 2 buckets of water from that delicious well. I go now." So she did. Sweet as she was, lovely as she was, she walked with 2 buckets to the forest, to the beautiful well, to get some of the sweet water. Well, when she arrived, there sitting by the well was an old, dusty, tired woman. Oh, she was so tired. And she said, "Oh, my dear, I see you have buckets and I have a small pail here. Could you spare some of your water?" Oh, well, she said, the daughter said, "Well, definitely. Let me do this for you." So she lowered down one of the buckets and pulled it back up, poured a little of the water into the old lady's basin and said, "Here, wash your hands and for your face, and let me rub your hands and your feet for you." "Oh, darling young one, you don't have, oh, no, let me do it for you." And so they sat and they talked, and oh, she was so kind. She was so kind to the old woman. Well, the old woman said, "My dear, you will now have a gift." And she reached over with her finger and touched the young woman on her lips and said, "Be careful what you say." Well, the young daughter bowed and gave her a kiss on both cheeks and grabbed some more water in her buckets and lugged them back home, boom, and put them down. Well, the stepmother said, "Did you have any problems with this today?" "As usual." The young girl opened her mouth and said, "No." And what do you think happened? A diamond and a ruby and 3 gold coins fell out of her mouth. Well, the stepmother said, "Oh, this is interesting. Money, jewels, my daughters will be taken care of. Keep talking. And answer all my questions." And so she did. And soon there was a mound of gold and silver, diamonds, rubies, emeralds, and all the sous you could think of. The stepmother had plans. So she locked the daughter, the sweet one, in her room and said, "You will not come out. You will not come out. And anyone who hears about your gift, I will have to go through me." Well, it just so happens that word get out. One of the stepdaughters was, let it slip in the marketplace. And soon there was a line of suitors as long as you could believe, all wanting to hear her, all wanting to get gold and rubies and emeralds and diamonds and silver and who knows what treasures. But the stepmother said, "No, you cannot speak to her. You will not speak to her. You will speak to my daughters first." "Why would I want to speak to them? I'm here to speak to her, because I am the head of this house while my husband is gone, and you will not speak to her." So the man gradually turned away, unless one time, my friends, a very handsome nobleman came riding up to the door. He had heard the story had spread. He knocked. Yes, who is it? I am here to speak to your youngest daughter. My youngest daughter? You mean my stepdaughter? Yes. You cannot. I will speak to her, for I am the Duc d'Orléans. I am royalty. You will listen to what I say. I will speak to the young daughter. Well, when you are given a command by royalty, what do? You obey. So the stepmother opened the door and went and unlocked the door to the girl's bedroom and grabbed her by the hand and pulled her out and said, "This man wants to talk to you. You better not open your mouth." Well, so the young man, he was taken by her. She was so beautiful. And he said, "Oh, please, just tell me your name. No one will tell me your name. Please, just tell me your name." And when the stepmother had stepped out of the room, she opened her mouth. "Marie." Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, gold. The Duke was amazed. Such beauty and treasure coming from such a beauty and treasure herself. "I shall marry you and take you away from here. Would that be okay with you?" Well, the young one looked around and said, "Yes." Boom, a pearl. So it was. He took the daughter with him, and they went off, and they ruled his place. And she was very generous with her words, very generous with her treasures, very generous with her love for her husband. You may wonder what happened to the two stepdaughters. The stepdaughters, yes. Well, after the young one left, the stepmother sent her daughters out to the same well with buckets. Maybe something was going to happen. And when they got there, there was an old woman, all dusty and tired and sitting, and said, "Oh, young ones, I see you have brought up buckets. Could you spare some of the water of the sweet water of the well?" "What do you want, a wicked and dirty and nasty peasant? Get out of my way. Go, go, go." And the woman stood up. She unveiled her glamour. And there was one of the three great French fairies. Be careful what you say. So the two daughters didn't think of anything, and they got the buckets and they went back with the water. And the mother said, "Did anything happen?" Well, when they both opened their mouths, guess what? Toads and frogs and lizards and night soil and trash and garbage all out of their mouths. The husband came back. He wanted to know what happened. The stepmother was, oh, my darling baby Kirsten. He said, tell me. And so the two girls, the two daughters, the two stepdaughters started speaking, and trash and garbage and newts and algae and muck falling out of their mouths. And he banished them right then and said, "You will not be filthy in my home. Where is my daughter?" The stepmother meekly told him what happened, how a duke had come by and chosen his daughter over hers. He turned them out of the house. He went to find his daughter, and such was their reunion. And he moved in to the palace to be there and to understand her enchantment.
David, that was an enchanting story.
Thank you.
And I discovered a new depth to your voice. Bass! Oh, man.
You mean you haven't heard me speak like this before?
No. Oh, man, that was just fascinating. Oh wow, I'm almost speechless. Almost.
Happy, of
Everyone,
course.
another round of applause for David, my cousin from Texas. David, you are too much.
You
All right,
better believe
Norman.
it.
All right, Norman, the spotlight is on you. Do what you do.
Okay, thank you, Baba. First of all, I want to do a quick check on time. Um, are we
Well,
running for past this half hour or?
We're running however long it takes for you to tell your story.
Okay, I just want to make sure that Ali is knows that how things are going.
So yeah, Ali has been monitoring, and he
Mhm.
does. He does such a fantastic job. Sometimes we are not conscious that he's doing such a fantastic job. But I would say we're running about half past. Oh no, wait a minute. I guess it's half. I don't know what time it is British time.
Just say
Eastern
half the
Standard-
hour.
It's
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
my
we're
friend.
running-
Just take your time and tell us your story.
All right, so you just heard the words of Ali. He's controlling the magic carpet, so go ahead.
Long time ago in the north of Africa, as this story is told from a Swahili-speaking people, there was a woodcutter, his wife, and their donkey. Now, the woodcutter would go out each day into the forest to search for fallen branches, for he was not allowed to cut the trees down. He was just to take what Allah, the God, had given him and the wind. And so each day he would gather up the wood, bundle it up, load the donkey, and then lead the donkey back to his house where his wife would take the wood, go into the village, sell the wood, buy food, come back to prepare a meal. And there was just enough food left over for a meal for the woodcutter the next morning when he had to pick up his axe, take the donkey, and once more go into the forest. It was hard, hard work. Now, it just turned out that there had not been much wind in the last few days, and so the woodcutter and his donkey went deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the forest. Very little wood was gathered. The donkey was very happy to be lightly laden. When suddenly they came upon a clearing, and in the clearing there was a great tree, and that great tree was covered in beautiful blossoms of many colors. And from those blossoms dripped nectar, and a sweet scent filled the air. And the sound of bees buzzing around and insects of all kinds, and fluttering in among the bees and the bugs and the flowers were birds, gorging themselves upon the insects and drinking the nectar. In fact, there were birds lying on the ground beneath the branches, just with their beaks wide open, their claws straight up, and the nectar fell into their open beaks, and the fat bugs, so fat they could not fly, fell into their beaks as well. The woodcutter watched this. He saw that the birds had to move neither beak nor claw to feed themselves and get a drink. He said, well, God takes care of these birds, so they have to move neither beak nor claw. Well, if these birds are going to be taken care of by God, then I think I and my wife and my donkey should be taken care of as well. I make a vow upon this tree that I will go home, go to bed, and not get up until we are provided for as the birds of the forest are provided. Well, he turned around, he led the donkey back, he tied it up outside of the dwelling, he went and he lay down and he went to sleep. And his wife came back from selling the wood in the village, and she found her husband. Husband, there's not very much wood upon the donkey. Go back into the forest and get more wood. We do not have enough. And he woke up and he said, "Oh, well, wife, I've made a vow." "That's good," she said. "What's the vow?" "I have made a vow." And he described the birds and the bees in the forest. He said, "I have made a vow that you and I will be provided for as the birds are provided for in the forest, and that I will not move from this bed until that happens." And he went back to sleep. So his wife took the what little wood there was, sold it in the marketplace, bought enough food for a very small meal. She came back, she prepared the rice and the beans, and then when it had been cooked, she said, "Husband, get up, it's time to eat." And he said, "I have made a vow I will not leave this bed. Bring the food to me." So she had to bring it to him. And he ate, and then he went back to sleep. The next morning, his wife woke up. She nudged her husband, says, "Husband, get up. We have no more money. We have no more food. Take the donkey and go into the forest and get some wood so that we may eat today." And you know what he said. "I will not move from this bed until God provides for us as the birds are provided for in the forest." And he went back to sleep. What could his wife do? She went outside and she was leaning on the donkey having a good cry. When along came a man from the village, and he says, "Aha, I see your donkey is still here. I'm glad of that, because I was looking for a donkey. And if you'll let me have the donkey for today, I'll give you a couple copper coins for your trouble." Well, the wife was glad to take the copper coins, and so we handed over the rope of the donkey to the man, and she ran into the village to buy some food, and he took the donkey into the forest. And what did he need a donkey for? I'm glad you asked. Because he had had a dream the night before. And dreams are powerful things. They give us our fate and where we can find our fortune, if you know how to listen to a dream. And the dream was this, that if he followed a certain pathway into the forest, if he found a certain tree, and if there was a hole underneath the tree, in that hole there would be a cave. And in that cave there would be piles of gold and silver and copper coins. "Fill the bags with gold and silver," said the dream, "but leave the copper coins alone." Now, the man did not understand why leave the copper coins alone, but a dream is a dream, and you must listen to your dreams. And so he was leading the donkey down the pathway that he saw in his dreams, and then he found the tree, and he found the hole, and he dug around in the hole, and there was the cave. In the dim light and dust, he saw 3 piles of gold and silver and copper coins. He was a man who knew how to listen to his dreams. And so he filled one bag until it was heavy with gold coins, and he put that upon the donkey. And then he took the second bag and filled it with silver coins and loaded that on the donkey on the other side. And so he was about to lead the donkey away when he thought about, there's a small fortune in copper coins in that cave. Now it is true, you must know how to listen to your dreams, but you also must know how to pay attention to details. He went down, he let go of the rope of the donkey, he went into the cave, and he began to fill his pockets and his pants and his shirt with clanking copper coins, and so busy was he in his greed that he did not hear. He did not hear the wind that had been so silent for days suddenly pick up. And he did not hear the tree begin to groan as it swayed back and forth. And suddenly, with a groan and a crash, the tree fell, closing up the cave forever. The poor donkey. The poor donkey, laden down with 2 heavy bags, looked this way and that way. There was not much to eat in the forest for him. A nibble of grass, a bit of flour, and so he followed his long nose down this pathway and down that pathway until he came back to his own home. And when he reached his own home, he let out a great hee-haw, which is to say, I am hungry. I am thirsty. I'm laden down with heavy sacks. Will somebody please feed me and take my burden off of me? A donkey knows how to put a lot into a hee-haw. And so at the sound of the donkey, of course, the farmer's wife came out. She saw the donkey, but she did not see the neighbor. But she also saw the 2 bags. She opened up one bag, and it was full of silver coins. She looked into the other bag. It was full of gold coins. And she dug one hand into the gold, one hand into the silver. With her eyes full of wonder, she went back to her husband and said, "Husband, wake. God has indeed provided." And he woke. She showed him the handfuls of silver and gold, and he smiled. But then he frowned. "Oh, wife, what God has provided, the tax man will take away. They will say that we have stolen this. What can we do to keep our treasure?" And his wife smiled. She says, "Husband, what God has provided, a woman's wit can keep. This is what we will do." And she told him, and he smiled. And the next morning, when their neighbors got up in the village, each one of them found upon their doorstep 2 silver coins. Some even had a gold coin. And the woodcutter and his wife said, "We have found some gold on our doorstep as well. And because of this, we have decided to go and journey to visit our relatives, whom we have not seen for such a long time. And we thank God for this gift that has been given to us." And so the villagers were not surprised to see the woodcutter and his wife leave their hut with their donkey with 2 large bags upon it. And they traveled down the road. They traveled until they came to a place where their names were not known. And there they built a beautiful house. And that house was always open to the weary traveler. None who came to their door went away hungry. None went away thirsty. For like they knew how to be generous with the gifts of God. And may we, in our journey, meet such generosity. Thank you.
Norman, you never cease to amaze, and you never fail. We're almost out of time. Hey, Bob. Hey, wonderful person next to Bob, who probably makes Bob a better person.
That story was for you, Seth. Thank you.
So before I give out the upcoming business, oh, it's our pleasure. Before I give out the upcoming business, I'm gonna tell a very, very short tale, and then we'll take this out of here. And I told this story earlier this week, I believe, but a story worth telling is also always worth retelling. So this story is about a young lion who was filling his oats, as people tend to say about teenagers coming into their own. But there's a young lion who knew he was going to be the next king of the jungle. And the young lion was filling himself, thumping his chest, and decided he was to make sure that everyone knew who he be. So he saw a monkey playing up the tree, and the monkey slipped and fell off the tree and fell to the ground. The lion jumped on the monkey, held him down, breathed his hot lion breath into the monkey's face and said, "Who's king of the jungle? Who's king of the jungle?" And the terrified monkey looked up, and he looked up at the young lion. He says, "You are almighty king. You're king of the jungle, and don't you forget it." And the lion jumped up, and he went about looking for more prey to pick upon. And he saw a zebra running, and he ran down, he caught the zebra and got it by the neck and said, "Who's king of the jungle? Who's king of the jungle?" And the terrified zebra looked at the lion and said, "You are, almighty lion. You are king of the jungle, and don't you forget it." And this went on until he saw an elephant. And he saw the elephant. He ran up to the elephant, and he said, "Who's king of the jungle?" And the elephant looked down the lion, took his trunk, grabbed the lion by his tail, and whipped him this way and that way and that way and this way, and then threw him away. And the lion tumbled over and over and over. And the lion stood up and said, "There's no need to get angry, no need to be violent. If you don't know, you don't know." Sometimes we feel too full of ourselves until we get our comeuppance. And that is my story about King of the Jungle. Seth, I'm glad you approved. Donald, Keith, Norman, Baden, Bob Kangas, and his, what do you call your better half? Yes, all of folk. And if I left out somebody's name, please forgive me.
Liz.
All right. And
Hey,
Ali,
Liz.
who's always fine.
Liz,
Yeah, and Liz, yes.
did you see
Ali,
the presentation of the Riyadh earlier and the pool?
We did.
And
I had the same question that you had. I wondered if the two ladies were going to come along with the pool. So
well, Bob told me in the chat that he was booked. Bob told me in the chat that he was booked to stay somewhere else, but like me, he's decided that he's moving.
Actually, truth be told, we are staying at Riyadh Spice.
I think that's where we have been.
We lucked out.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Everybody.
Yeah. So I'm sure everyone's gonna have the best place for them.
We're gonna have a magnificent time in Marrakesh.
That's gonna be interesting.
Yeah.
Sarah, thank you for your story and your drawing. And I think Norman, we thank you for putting about the drawing in the chats. I think I'm giving correct credit. And real quick, so that Father Christmas does not have to visit me on the final day of Kwanzaa and give me a lump of coal as my zwadi, as my gift. Upcoming events include this Tuesday, the 14th, when we have what everyone says is the best World Storytelling Cafe.com event that we have, and that is the Young Storytellers, International Young Storytellers, 18 and under, and they will amaze us. We've moved it up earlier to 4:30 UK time because in many parts of India and Asia, the children, the Watoto Waziri, the beautiful children, are up late 10 and 11 o'clock at night, and they have school first thing in the morning. And then this Friday on the 17th, we have Pauline Cordiner. I hope I said her name correctly.
Lovely.
Yes, you did. Yes.
All right. And then on the Saturday, on the 18th at 6 p.m. UK time, we have Rona Babor's Christmas special. And then at following Sunday on the 19th, Worldwide Story Round. And Father Christmas, AKA John Rowe, may be back in time to pick up the reins on that. No pun intended. In the meantime, I'm wishing everyone a superlative, spiritual, special Sunday. May your wonderful week ahead be exactly that, wonderful, and may each and every day you take bring you new joy and happiness. Last word, may 2022 bring you and yours all that you need, if not all that you want. My name is Baba C, stepping in for two magnificent people, John Rowe and Gary? And Gary, right? What's Gary's last name again?
Accordingly.
I just wanted to see if you were listening. Right, Gary Cordingly. So I'm going to be quiet and wish everyone well, and look forward to experiencing you again in the very near future. Everyone take care. All right, Ali, you can return the magic carpet to, where do you store magic carpet? All right. See you good folk later. Peace.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, Donald. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ali.
Night, everyone.
Thank you, Ali.
Thank you, my friend.
Bye, everyone. Nice to see you all.
And you
Until
Masalama,
next
ya
time.
Ali.
There's your phone again.
Bye, Sarah.
I
Thanks,
know.
Ali. Bye, all.
Somebody really needs to
Don't-
talk.
Hey, that's all right. It's the techno imps. We're not going to worry about it.
Yeah. Nice
Yes,
to
a
see
tech-
Ali's
no.
face in the end.
Good to
Yes,
see you,
yes.
Seth.
Thank
Good to
you,
see
Tim.
you. Looking
Bye,
well.
Baden.
Take care.
Bye, Baden.
Bye, bye.
شكرا شكرا يا علي كله كويس.
مرحبا سيف. Thank you so much.
ايوه تمام. انت
كل شيء
وين؟
تمام.
انت وين؟
مغرب. من المغرب.
مغرب. وين في مغرب؟
مراكش.
مراكش. كويس. اوكي اللقاء في
What he said. No, I
أنا
just said
حاليا
what you
في
said.
الأطلس في جبال الأطلس.
تمام. الى اللقاء في مراكش. See you in Marrakesh.
In Marrakesh.
Bye,
See you in
everybody.
Marrakesh.
Bye, Baba.
Everyone.
Until the next time, to be continued.
Until the next time, Rafiki.
All right, Rafiki Yangu, it's been my pleasure.
Bye, Baba.
Bye-bye. No, I don't say goodbye. I say until the next time.
Oh,
Same
well.
to you, Abdu. That's all right. We're going to meet again. Trying to get this last message in. Oh, right. You know, you should show your face more often. People will get should identify you with the carpet, you know, and everyone says that in the comments. So anyhow, thank you very much, young sir. May you continue having a superlative Sunday.
Thank you.
I'm going to have a late lunch or early dinner. I don't know which one it's going to be yet. All right. Until the next time, to be continued.